So how many people ever started down a new road or path in your life? Maybe it was a new job, maybe it was a new career, maybe it was just a new life direction or taking some new course. And you invested time and energy into it, and the more you did, you realized, I really don't like this. This is not what I want. This is not what I was hoping it would be. Anybody have one of those experiences? How many people ever said yes to someone because you wanted to please them, but you really wanted to say no? Anybody? And how many people have ever had a hard time getting yourself out of a situation you got yourself stuck in, but it seemed like a good idea at the time when you did it? Okay. You know, this kind of reminds me of this astronomer who was on this extended lecture tour, and he just became weary of giving the same exact lecture over and over and over. And he confided to his chauffeur that he was just really tired about just giving the same lecture all the time. And the chauffeur expressed that he was getting kind of tired of his job, just driving folks all around. He's kind of bored. And then the astronomer said, hey, I got a great idea. Since you're kind of bored with yours and I'm bored with mine, why don't we switch roles for a night? And, you know, the lecture's written word for word. You've heard it hundreds of times yourself. And we're going to a new town where nobody knows what I look like, so it'll be great. And so they both agree. They switch clothing, and the night comes, and the lecture hall is absolutely full. And then the driver delivers a flawless lecture. I mean, he just rocks it. There's a standing ovation. He is feeling euphoric. He's feeling such joy and incredible confidence in himself. And then someone at the back of the room asks a question and says, would you please comment on the relative merits of the pulsation instability model and the accretion disk instability model for the explanation of the outbursts of cataclysmic various stars? And so he stayed calm on the outside, but inside his heart is racing. He's pounding. He's thinking, how am I going to get out of this? I'm going to get embarrassed. And then so he slowly starts to nod his head. And then he says, you know, I'm really surprised that you would ask me such a simple and obvious question. And to show you how simple and easy this question is, I'm going to ask my chauffeur to answer it for you. All right. So this morning, we're going to begin our annual 4-week series called The Songs of Life. You know, the music is so incredible. Songs, don't they uplift us, they inspire us, you know, they soothe us and heal us and open us, and they help us reflect. You know, listening to songs, I bet you every one of us has a song that got us through a difficult time, a song that became our personal anthem, a song that really gets our energy up, or maybe takes us back to some special memories in our lives. You know, for the next 4 weeks, I'm going to pick a famous song and extract from it a spiritual message, a message to help us live our lives in a greater and more joyful way. Today we're going to look at the song Goodbye Yellow Brick Road by Elton John, and written by Bernie Taupin. And it was a 1973 hit. It got to number 2 on the charts. And I have to admit, I'm not a particularly huge fan of Elton John, although I think he has a great voice. And I really didn't like this song very much. It sounds kind of melancholy, and I just didn't really like it that much until about 3 or 4 months ago when a member of our community emailed me a version by Sarah Bareilles that is absolutely incredible. And I think I probably listened to it for the first time and really absolutely love it. Do yourself a favor and YouTube it. It is probably one of the best covers I have ever heard. And it's about the singer who is really unhappy with the life that they're living, even though it's filled with fame, even though it is filled with wealth and glory and celebrity. You know, they're not happy because of the pressures and the demands and feeling used and the expectations and being shown off. And the person is feeling stuck and miserable, even though it's a life that most people would love to live. Most people would say, what? Fame, fortune, and you're not happy? And it kind of reminds me of a quote by Jim Carrey. He said, I think everybody should get rich and famous so they can see that that's not the answer. You know, the yellow brick road that they are saying goodbye to, you know, when I first heard it, I thought, what is this about Oz? Leaving Oz? Like, bye Tin Man, bye Scarecrow. But what it really is, the yellow brick road really represents, you know, that pathway, the overarching route that we think will lead us to success and happiness. You know, it represents what we believe is the good life, what we think will change our lives, like money and power and success. or what we've been told, that we ought to do in our lives. And it is that thing that we have that we really also don't feel a sense of fulfillment about, that we're not excited, that it's really not for us, or something that used to be good that just no longer serves us, or just no longer right for us. It's a good life, it looks good, but it's just not ours. Goodbye Yellow Brick Road, to me, while it doesn't seem as joyful, it's an empowering and powerful song. It is a heartfelt song about reclaiming your personal power and to live life on your own terms, and to change course or change path if you need to, no matter what anybody else says. It is about living your authentic life. And so today I want to look at 3 lessons for living a better life that come from this song, Goodbye Yellow Brick Road. The first one is, I think this song shows us that we have the power to choose our lives. Listen to these statements. Goodbye Yellow Brick Road. That's a statement of choice. I'm going back to my plow, a statement of choice. Oh, I finally decided my future lies beyond the yellow brick road, a choice. Sometimes when we're stuck in our lives and unhappy, we feel trapped and feel like we have no choice. We feel like we have no power. We feel like we have no control over our circumstances. And this song reminds us that no matter what's going on, you have the power to choose. You have the ability and you have the responsibility. That even if you made a previous poor choice, even if it used to work and it doesn't work for you now, the fact is where you are now, you can make a choice. You don't have to stay stuck. You don't have to be a victim. You don't have to be used or controlled. You have the power to choose and to reclaim your freedom to live life the way you want to live it. And the fact that the past does not have to equal the future. Why? Because we have the power to choose. Look at the Bible, how it tells us how powerful we are. In the Gospels, it says, choose this day whom you will serve. In Job, it says, decide upon a thing, and it will be established for you. Even when Jesus said, ask and you shall receive, to ask is to choose. To ask is to decide. This is how powerful we are. We're never stuck. We're never controlled. We're never powerless. We have the ability to choose. And I think this song tells us about 2 powers we have to choose. And the first power is we have the power to choose to say goodbye. To say goodbye means to choose to let go, to choose to be done, to choose to say stop, no more, that's it. To say goodbye is to ask ourselves the question, what is it time in my life to let go? What is it in my life that it's time to release, or to clear away, or to close the door on? What in my life is it time to me to free myself from? And maybe it's a relationship, maybe it is a habit, maybe it is a mindset, or maybe it's some busyness or procrastination. I don't know what it is, but there is something in our lives I bet every one of us will be better for if we were to say goodbye to it, close the door on it, and let it go. We want to have a better life, but the only way to have a better life is to say goodbye to something, to end something, to close the door, to say no. In our lives, there are certain words that we like to say more than the others, and we think have more power. Like we think hello has more power. But I would tell you, for a better life, sometimes goodbye has power. Sometimes we think yes has all this great power, and it does. But sometimes no can be just as powerful for our lives. Sometimes we want to say, hey, hold on. And yes, sometimes that's good. But sometimes powerful words to liberate us could be let go. These are liberators for us that keep us from staying stuck and keep us reliving a pattern that isn't really working for us. And so goodbye means it may look good, but it's not for me, and I'm willing to let it go. And the second thing that I think the song says about our power and our ability to choose is, I have finally decided my future lies beyond the yellow brick road. We can decide our future. That what is beyond what is going on in our lives, we have that power to choose our vision, our goals, our possibilities, and our desires. We get to choose what the future level of happiness and fulfillment and meaning in our lives is. So my question is, what is your future beyond your current yellow brick road? What does your future look like beyond what the circumstances of your life are for you? See beyond. Lift up your spiritual eyes and see to the greater possibilities for yourself. And there are great possibilities. Robert Browning wrote a long poem, and nobody knows it, but there's one line that is famous, and here's the line. He says, a man's reach should exceed his grasp, or what's a heaven for? And what it's saying is reach beyond, dream big, go after your great goals, go after your best life, go after your deepest desires, go after to your truest and deepest love. Don't hold back. If God has given us the power to choose and to vision and to see possibilities beyond where we are, look for the greatest and best of what your heart and your life is calling you for and towards. You know, in Scripture, when it says, where there is no vision, the people perish, it means have a vision. You know, use this great spiritual power of imagination in your mind to create greater images and ideas out there. Jim Carrey was absolutely broke, but he saw beyond his current road and path to a greater life of greater success. You know that famous thing, he wrote himself a check for $10 million, and 6 years later he got paid $6 million or $10 million for Dumb and Dumber. Now that's got to be some spiritual thing to get paid $10 million for Dumb and Dumber. Walt Disney could see beyond his current situations, which were bankruptcy several times, to see Disneyland, to see the happiest place on earth before it came. Jay-Z, even though he got rejected like crazy, was able to see his great levels of success. So what can you see for yourself? What lies in your future beyond what is currently here? That's how powerful you are. And that's what this song reminds us. And the second one, this song tells us, is to handle the outer pressures that come with life. You know, Goodbye Yellow Brick Road is about dealing with the societal pressures and the expectations of choosing our own path rather than the path that others may choose for us. And I love that line where the dogs of society howl. You know, what they're saying in the context of the song is the dogs of society are kind of like the rich socialites that are howling for the things that are glitzy but really superficial and praising those things. Or it could represent the people in our lives who are howling at us, telling us, judging us, and telling us how we should live our lives. How many people ever had somebody in your life kind of tell you how to live your life? Anybody ever have that? How many people ever tell other people how to live their lives? You know, in our culture, we kind of do that. You know, and you know, in the song it says, "You can't plant me in your penthouse. You know, you can't hold me forever." You know, it's got lines of showing that sometimes we want to control other people, and other people want to control us. And sometimes there's a pressure in our lives to conform. A pressure, you know, to go along and act in certain ways from our parents, from our culture, you know, from our friends and our teachers. You know, others, you know, we care what other people think about us, so we end up going along from our childhood to adulthood. There isn't just peer pressure, there's adult pressure. There's always life pressure and keeping up with the Joneses, what career we pursue, you know, who we date, what we hang out with. These pressures start early. You ever heard these words growing up in your house? It's, what will the neighbors think? What will people say if we see you acting that way? Because we care about what people think about us, or what they say about us, or how they judge us by how we look, or how we dress, or where our kids go to school, or how much money that we have, or what kind of car that we drive. And we want people to like us. We want to be approved of. We want to fit in. You know, we want to be seen, you know, in a good light. And sometimes we end up doing things we don't want to do. Things that we don't like. Things that don't serve our soul. I bet you right now, every single one of us has something that if we would change or say and be honest that we haven't been that way before, or do something differently in our life, that would tick off or upset at least one person. That if we said all the things that we desire, that there would be some people who would shun us or not support us or throw cold water on it and try and get us to not change. The fact is, even if we choose to say goodbye and choose what our future lies, it's not easy when you deal with the pressures of what other people think. Because sometimes people don't want us to change, because that means they might need to change, and they'd rather have us stay just the way that we are. The truth is, if you want to go to another level in your life, we got to deal with other people's opinions, other people's reactions, other people's comments and judgments, and not let it stop us from doing what it is that we want to do. So how do we handle other people's opinions and still pursue? First one is we got to accept the fact that everybody is going to have an opinion. Now, what somebody say? Opinions are like noses. Everybody's got one. There's always going to be an opinion. People will always have reactions and opinions, and they're not going to be in alignment. Someone asked a very successful man. He said, "What is the key to success?" "Yeah, I don't know what the key to success is, but I know the key to failure, and that's trying to please everyone." Because we're always trying to please everyone. Ultimately, everyone won't be happy, and we won't be happy. So the first one is accept that people have opinions. And then the second one is don't take it personally. Just because they have that doesn't mean that we need to take it personally or feel bad about ourselves or feel ashamed or feel like we did something wrong. We didn't. Their stuff is their stuff. And we need to let them keep their stuff, but work on our stuff. And then the third one is be true and honest to yourself. What is it that you want? Go a little deeper and ask your heart. Go a little deeper and ask Spirit for guidance. What is it I'm supposed to do? What is the guidance I'm supposed to follow? And then the fourth one is to realize it's all going to work out. Those people who might get their nose out of joint, at some point, they'll be okay. Everything will be okay. But the question is, are you going to live your life on your terms? Are you going to be honest with yourself and not take things personally and be okay with people having opinions? Okay, the final thing that I think, because the truth is that if we just live up to people's expectations and approval, we're not living our lives. We're living the lives they think we should live. And we're here to live the life that we are meant to live. Last one I think the song teaches is about balance, living a balanced life. And here's why I say this, because Bernie Taupin was interviewed in 2020, and here's what he said. He said, "I don't believe I was ever turning my back on success or saying I don't want it. I think I was hoping that maybe there was a happy medium, a way to exist successfully and also in a tranquil environment." And so what he was saying, he wanted success, but he just wanted it to be balanced. He was hoping to find that balance. What I find interesting is the juxtaposition of Oz, this magical place, and a farm, a quiet place, of that busy life and the quiet life, about the penthouse and adoring people and the plows and the horny-backed toads. I mean, isn't it an interesting juxtaposition? I think what he was trying to do was trying to insert the idea we need some kind of balance in our lives, not the extremes. How many people have ever struggled or had a difficult time finding balance in your life? Anybody ever have that? We live in a culture that teaches us to be out of balance. We are in a culture that is obsessed and praises working long hours and overdoing it. It's almost a badge of honor to say, you know what, I worked way into the night, or I pulled an all-nighter. I mean, we have this thing where we think that shows commitment, and that shows, some level of dedication, working long hours. And the truth is, it is not healthy. It leads to burnout, a lack of productivity, and then even if we're productive, we're not happy. We're not as healthy. It does not support our sense of well-being. We're always into busy and multitasking and doing and overbooking and packing our calendars like that's the best way to live. And we all kind of do that, and it's not healthy. I was reading an article about balance, and the article was entitled 13 Steps to Living a Balanced Life. And I'm thinking, 13 steps? My life will be out of balance trying to balance it with your 13 steps. So I brought it down to 3. Here we go. And so the first one is to ask ourselves, where in my life am I out of balance? Is it with sleep or exercise? Is it with my diet? Is it with my family time or social time or relaxation? Or is it with hobbies? Or is it my spiritual time? Am I reading enough to stimulate my mind? Am I nurturing my emotions? I mean, we need to ask ourselves, and just pick one thing. Don't try and overhaul your life all at once. Pick one thing that'll add more balance to your life. The second thing to live a balance is to do better self-care. We are so not good at self-care. The first things we sacrifice will be sleep, diet, all the things that are important to us. We'll cancel stuff with our family because of work. How well are you taking care of yourself? And again, what is one thing you could do to take better care of yourself? I wasn't sleeping so great in the last little bit, and I started drinking this warm milk. I have this little frothing machine, and I froth this skim milk, and it gets all bubbly, and I put turmeric and ginger and nutmeg, and it's nasty tasting, but I know that it works. At least I tell myself it does when I'm drinking it. And somehow it has made a difference. And it may be a simple thing, but we're the temple of the living God, and sometimes we don't treat our bodies like temples. And so we really need to do a little bit of better self-care. And the last one is to spend our time centered in spirit. If we want to balance your life, we got to balance it spiritually first. The more we're centered and grounded and calm in spirit, the more balanced we are, the more centered and grounded we are, and the more we could actually live it and express it. My father used to say two phrases very often. The first one was, the world is your oyster. He used to love saying that. There are opportunities out. The world is your oyster. And the second thing, he prayed at dinner every night. He would always say, God, give us the peace that passes all human understanding. And the truth is, until we get peace, we can't have balance. Until we get peace, the world cannot be as full an oyster and for ourselves. And so balancing ourselves is an important thing to enjoy life and to live life on our own terms. The Wizard of Oz was written by Frank Baum in 1900. He wrote it as a story for children to bring them joy and also to be victorious against the odds. And they all went to Oz and to the Emerald City, and they wanted a brain and a heart and a thing, and Dorothy wanted to go home. And I love the thing was, and they had it all along. That's the whole punchline of that. And this song is saying basically the same thing. Even if your life isn't going great, even if you made some bad choices, you have the power to choose to say goodbye to something that isn't working and to choose a future beyond what you're currently experiencing. It tells us you have the power to choose to handle well the opinions of other people. And finally, you have the power to live a more balanced life by simplifying, by doing self-care and centering yourself in spirit. These are great lessons for living, and they come from and are inspired by the song, Goodbye, Yellow Brick Road. God bless you all. All right?